Hello? The Oilers did what? What an amazing first day of free agency. I cannot believe that the Oilers, almost a week ago, after being eliminated in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, come back and have an amazing start to free agency. Now, there are going to be a lot of questions along the way. We're going to see how the lineups match, but the Oilers did make some pretty good additions. You guys can see here on the side of the screen, the Oilers went out and they spent a lot of money. As all of you guys have heard the reports, well over $1 billion was spent by GMs in the NHL just to get the players that they needed on their team. And the Oilers were a part of that big spending. Some of the notable additions that the Oilers made were Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson, also bringing back the third line of Connor Brown, Matthias Janmark, and Adam Henrique. I think the Oilers going out and making sure that we got our third line back was absolutely imperative. But adding scoring wingers for Leon Draisaitl for next season makes this team absolutely potent offensively. One of the biggest questions that we do still have is on defense. I think the rise of Philip Broberg, we're going to see Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard again next season. There's still questions about Nurse and Ceci. Now, the only reason there's questions about Nurse is because of that $9 million price tag. We're going to have to find a way to work around that. But with that being said, the additions that the Oilers made on defense, bringing in Josh Brown, continuing Torrey Stetcher, the emergence of Broberg, we're going to have to maneuver a little bit to see how our defense shapes up. I think our top 6 going into next season, I would be comfortable with if we made it a change. And I think personally, from my opinion, as an Oilers fan, either one of Nurse or Ceci has got to go. I think we keep Brett Kulak. He's got experience. He's a stabilizing force, and I think he should be a lock on defense. Matthias Ekholm, Bouchard, and Broberg guaranteed are there. Nurse, I think, is a great defenseman. He does need to improve a little bit more just to match that dollar value that he's being given in terms of a cap hit, or we explore a potential trade. If we want to do a comparable of his contract to other defensemen in the league that have that much, are we seeing the same result? Not saying Nurse is a bad player. I'm just saying I don't think he adds up to that $9 million valuation that he has. And maybe the Oilers might look to potentially move on from that or adjust a defensive partner for Nurse to make that happen. Going back to the offensive side, having Jeff Skinner being bought out by the Buffalo Sabres and coming to the Edmonton Oilers, I think is a great opportunity for him to continue that scoring touch and even give him the opportunity to potentially play in the playoffs. Same thing with having Victor Arvidsson. Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, I think I could put them both down to each get at least 20 to 25 goals. Adding that offensive production to the Edmonton Oilers is going to be massive. I would like to see how other teams match up against the offensive power of the Edmonton Oilers. Last season, I can agree that a lot of people would say that the Edmonton Oilers were top heavy and really only had Connor McDavid, Draisaitl as the main leaders of offense with Hopkins and Zach Hyman. But we now have Arvidsson, we now have Skinner. When Kane becomes healthy, I think adding him into that top 9 is going to be amazing. We still keep our third line, Adam Henrique, Matthias Janmark, and Connor Brown. I'm hoping that they can reproduce the same results that we saw in the playoffs. Connor Brown, obviously coming off that ACL injury, I believe. He's now finding his legs. He's finding his stride, and he's going to make sure that this season is going to be the best season. He's got a 1-year deal to prove it, and I think he's going to maximize on that deal. Now, I know there's a lot of questions about Corey Perry coming back. I don't agree with the $1.4 million price tag. However, if that's what it's going to take to ensure that we have that veteran leadership, I think that's the price that the Edmonton Oilers have to pay. And I think, much to the chagrin of a lot of fans, including myself, I think at the end of the season, that contract might be worth it. I think Corey Perry, he lacks foot speed. He lacks the ability to kind of be in the play where he was prior to when he won his first Stanley Cup and when he was developing. But you guys have to realize he's much older now and he brings a lot more experience. And I think he's really good for the locker room. I think he's a good check and balance to some of the players that we have. I think he's going to have a good season this next season. And I know there's a lot of trade talk around Kane and his no movement clause and whatnot. Let me be one of the fans to say, I don't think we need to let go of Kane. Kane is offensively gifted. He can get in the other players' faces. He can really be a nuisance to the opposing team, and I think keeping him around is going to be good. He is a phenomenal player, and if I'm on any other team, I think I would want Kane. So we keep Kane. We have to worry about his health. I know there was a presser in an interview with Jeff Jackson. Kane's health is the most important. If Kane needs some time on the LTIR to be healthy, then that's where he goes. But he is a great player. I don't think the answer is moving Kane. The more offensive strength and power that we have going into the season and into the playoffs, I think is going to benefit us. It's realistically on that defense. We also lose Jack Campbell. Unfortunately, Jack Campbell was not finding his place here in Edmonton. He started off okay and kind of went downhill from there. He's not a bad goaltender. Red Wings are taking a chance on him. I think that's a great idea. Let him go rejuvenate his career. I wish nothing but the best for Jack Campbell. Losing Vinny Desharnais, the big body back on the defensive side, does kind of sucks, but we do have some big players back there. We just have to make sure that the money that we're spending on our defense is actually worth the money that we're spending on our defense. Not calling out anybody, but I'm just saying, let's try to see if our team can work together cohesively like we saw in the playoffs, get that team defense going. Stuart Skinner, great work in the playoffs. I know you had a couple bad games, but great work, and I think we'll see Stuart Skinner really step up a lot more this next season. And he's coming back with Calvin Pickard, so I think that's a great thing for the Edmonton Oilers. I think a really cool signing that the Oilers did that's kind of a little bit under the radar for you guys is having Hamblin, Hamblin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I've seen flashes of his game, and I think he's a good player. I think having him come up, maybe potentially called up to the fourth line, hopefully. We'll see. But I think we have a pretty good team. We did some really good signings this offseason. I'm very happy about the Edmonton Oilers' performance last season and this season. Let's go Oilers. Let's see what this season turns out to be.